Everybody, this is Mr. Marshall at Stony Lane. I want to tell you about something kind of close to my house. There is this area that's like on a hill with lots of trees, and not that long ago they tore down all these trees, right? And I was wondering, what's going on? Why are they tearing down all those trees? And what happened was I started seeing workers come and start to build things, right? They started building houses on that hillside, and they're doing it really fast. They put up a brick wall, they put up a sign that has the name of the new complex because it's going to be a complex, and they put up a stop sign. They paved some roads and stuff like that on the hillside. And before they started doing any of the work, you know what they had to do? They had to make a plan, right? They had to think about what they were going to do before they did it to see if they can do it, right? Do they have the right equipment? Do they have enough money to do the work? They had to make a plan, right? And before you do anything important, you have to make a plan. You have to figure out how you're going to do it, if you're able to do it at all, when you're going to do it, where you're going to do it. You're going to think about, the mistakes that you might make. And so it's true, like before you cook, before you take a trip, anytime you do something important, you make a plan, right? So the same thing is true when you write. The same thing is true when you write. Before you write a story, before you write a shopping list, before you write something to teach others, you have to make a plan so that it comes out the way you want it to come out. Okay? So today what I want to teach you is that when you're wanting to write a story, there's different ways that you can make a plan. You have to make a plan. You have to make a plan so that you can be a careful writer. Okay? And so today I'm going to teach you a couple of different ways. And if it seems like a lot, then maybe just watch the first part of the video and then try it, and then watch the second part of the video and then try it, and then watch the third part of the video and try it. I'm going to teach you 3 ways that writers can make a plan before they start to write a story. Okay? So the stories that we're going to think about today are true stories, right? They're personal narrative. They're small moments. They're the kind of writing maybe you've been doing with your teacher. Okay? And so the first thing I have to do is think, well, what story do I want to tell? Okay, so for my first one, I think I'm going to tell the story of, okay, I know. There is a story that I want to tell you that I have a brother, right? I have a twin brother. And my twin brother and I don't look anything alike, right? His hair is dark and mine was light. He was a little taller than I am. Everything was just different about the way we looked, and everything was different about the way we are as people too. Like he had his own set of interests, and I had my own set of interests, but we had a lot of things that we did together. Okay, and so I want to tell you the story about something funny that happened because of that one day at summer camp. Okay, so before I start to write my story in my notebook, I'm going to try and plan my story, because before you do anything important, you make a plan. Okay? So one way that you can make a plan is like this. You can think of what's going to go in the beginning of your story, what's going to go in the middle of your story, and what's going to go at the end of your story. Okay? Beginning, middle, end. Okay? In fact, you can even take this middle and break it down into smaller parts and be like middle, middle, middle. 3 parts of the middle. All in the middle. Let's see how this goes. So I'm going to think first about the beginning of the story. So in the beginning of the story, I was at summer camp. I'm going to tell where I was, right? I was at camp. And everybody was just playing, and this kid came up to me named Michael, and he said, guess what? I know someone who has the same last name as you. I'm just writing some words. I'm not writing whole sentences. You see that? I'm just writing some words. So I wrote camp, I wrote an M for Michael, I wrote guess, and then last name. And I know what that means. I'm not writing this for an audience, I'm writing this for me right now. This is just my plan. Okay? And so he said, I know someone that has the same last name as you. And he said, come with me. Okay, so now I'm thinking about my middle. I'm going to break my middle up into more parts. We walked past the pool, and I kept thinking, who is he thinking of? I don't know anyone here that has the same last name as me. And then we walked past the field where some kids were playing soccer, and I kept thinking, who's he talking about? I don't know anyone that has the same last name as me. And then we walked to this big circle of boys, and I saw in the circle was my brother. And I realized it must be him. Okay. And so then he introduced me to my brother. I'm going to add a fourth one. He introduced me, and he said, I want you to meet this guy. And he introduced me to my brother. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? And so now I did the beginning. I did the middle. You see how I'm just writing words? I'm not writing whole sentences or anything. I'm just writing reminder words for myself. Right? Now, I'm going to tell you what happened at the end. At the end, my brother and I looked at each other and we said, okay. And then Michael said, do you know each other? And my brother said, yeah, sort of. We're sort of brothers. And I said, twins, in fact. And we all laughed because we thought, that's so funny that my brother and I are so different that someone would think they need to introduce us to each other. Isn't that great? Do you see how I made that plan? I wrote the beginning and the middle and the end, and I just wrote words that are reminder words for me of what I can say when I start to write the story. I didn't write the whole story. It doesn't look like paragraphs. It doesn't look like pages and pages of writing. It just looks like reminder words, okay? That's one way that you can make a plan for your story. Okay, so now if this is enough for you, click pause or click stop and come back and see the next part later. Okay, I'm going to teach you a second way in a second on how you can make a plan for writing a story. So here's a second way to make a plan for writing a story. I'm going to tell you a different story this time. Okay, I'm going to plan out a different story this time. And so this time I'm going to use a strategy called making a timeline of my actions and then making a timeline of my thoughts and feelings. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to make a timeline. I'm going to think, well, what's my story? Well, one thing that I really, really wanted once was to become a teacher. Because before I was a principal, I was a third grade teacher and a fourth grade teacher, and I did other things too. But I started off as a third grade teacher. So I want to tell you about the first day that I was a teacher. Okay, so I'm going to make dots on my timeline with all the actions. So before the first day of school, I set up my classroom. I'm using abbreviations just like before. And so it was the first morning of school. And I remember that I didn't hang this one poster up. I just bought this new poster. And I hung it up. Okay. And it was almost time for the students to come. And then my friend Scott, he was a teacher in that school too. Scott came by the door, and I was really good friends with Scott. And he looked at me. He said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "I think so." And he looked at me and he's like, "Hey, you're going to be a great teacher." So I'm going to write great teacher. And then the students arrived. Okay? See what I did? I made a timeline of all the things that happened in order, actions that happened in order. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a second timeline about my feelings about each action. So I have 5 dots on my timeline, right? So I'm going to add 5 dots here and tell how I was feeling in each time. I'm doing this quickly, right? I'm not writing sentences. I'm not spending a lot of time on my plan, but I'm putting a lot of thinking into my plan, because when you want to do something important, you make a plan. When you want to write a good story, you make a plan. Okay, so I set up my classroom and I was feeling like this is so much fun. This is so much fun. I always wanted to be a teacher, and now I'm going to be one. I hung my last new poster, and I was thinking, I'd better hurry because the kids are coming. And then Scott came, and I thought, I'm really nervous now. I'm really nervous because the kids are almost here. He said, how's it going? And I said, I'm okay, I guess. And then he said, you're going to be a great teacher. And so I felt braver. And I thought, gosh, he's such a good friend to make me feel brave. And then the students arrived, and I said, I love this. So what I can do now, that's my plan. When I write my story, I'm going to write my action, a thought. Action, thought. Action, thought. I'm going to write lots of sentences for each, okay? I'm going to try and make each part as long as I can. But this tells me the order I'm going to write it all in. That's a second strategy to make an action timeline and a thought timeline, okay? That's a second strategy for making a plan when I'm writing a story. Because anytime you do anything important, you have to make a plan, okay? Anytime I want to write a good story, I have to make a plan. So if this is enough for you, hit pause or hit stop, and I'll do one more strategy. Okay, so I taught you 2 ways that you can make a plan for the important story that you're writing, okay? So I'm going to teach you a third way right now, okay? The third way is kind of like the timeline, but what's different is this is called a story mountain. And what this does is this is the kind of writing that you do when you're trying to build feelings and build tension inside your story, make it feel exciting for your reader, okay? So a story mountain looks like a mountain. So it's like it goes up, 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 and then it stops like right there. We don't see the other side of the mountain, okay? That's what a story mountain looks like. And so it's like a timeline, but the thing is that what happens is as you go higher and higher and higher and higher, the feelings are like more and more exciting. So the dots that I put over here are going to be like it gets more and more exciting, okay? Because like more and more exciting stuff is happening, okay? So look, I'm going to think of one more story, okay? I got one more story. There was a day where I took a trip a long time ago to Australia. And one of the things that I wanted to do more than anything is to see a real kangaroo, because I'd never seen a real kangaroo before. So I'm going to make a plan on a story mountain to tell you that story. Okay, ready? So I start in the beginning, kind of like on my timeline, right? And so in the first thing that I did was I landed at the airport in Australia, and I thought, where's a kangaroo? I really want to see a kangaroo. But there are no kangaroos in the airport. So my friend Peter picked me up from the airport, and he drove me to his house. So I'm going to write, Peter drove me. I'm not writing a whole sentence. I'm not writing a whole paragraph. I'm just writing a couple words to remind me. Okay, Peter drove me. And then we went to his house, and there were no kangaroos, right? And I looked in his yard, and there were no kangaroos. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, I got to see a kangaroo. I really want to see a kangaroo. And he said, well, there's a zoo nearby that we can go see kangaroos in. And I thought, oh boy, I want to see a kangaroo. So we went to the zoo, and he said, guess what? In this zoo, not only can you see kangaroos, you can feed them. And I thought, this is it. This is crazy. I'm like, you're trying to kill me? This is like exciting. I get to feed a kangaroo. So Peter tells me I can feed a kangaroo. And so there we go. And we get to where the kangaroos are. And like, this is the thing I've been waiting for, right? That's why it's all the way up here. That's why this is the climax of the story. That's the top of the mountain. That's the most exciting part, the most feelings, right? And so there's all these kangaroos, and like there's lots of kangaroos. And like they hop over, and they gave us these pellets to feed the kangaroos with, and all the kangaroos hop over to the people, and every kangaroo went to a person, and every person got a kangaroo, except for me. Except for me. I didn't get a kangaroo. And I was like really, really upset. And then I thought, this is crazy. And then one kangaroo came over. My kangaroo came over. And he came and he started eating the food out of my hand. And like the whiskers were tickling the palm of my hand. And then the best part was he grabbed my hand with his hand. He held my hand. I'll show you. He held my hand like this. And he grabbed it and he held it so that it would be still while I was feeding him. And this was like the best part. It was the best part. Not only did I see a kangaroo, not only did I feed a kangaroo, but the kangaroo was holding my hand. And it was the coolest feeling. It was amazing. And now the feelings start going down a little bit. And I thought, I'll always remember the day that I got to feed a real kangaroo. So now I kind of told the story in my head. I didn't write it. I made a plan on the story mountain. The feelings got higher and higher and higher until I hit the climax. And then I kind of went down. I didn't go all the way back down again. I didn't get boring. I kind of stopped here, right? Well, that's how you can make a plan for your story. So that's it. I taught you 3 ways to make a plan. Remember, anytime you're doing anything important in your life, you make a plan. You make a plan. And the same thing is true in writing. And so there were 3 ways that you just learned to make a plan. Remember what they are? Beginning, middle, end. Make an action timeline and a feeling timeline. And make a story mountain. The planning is quick. It doesn't take long because the writing is going to take long. But if you make a good plan, your story will be so much better. Okay? Why don't you try those strategies? And I'll see you next time.